Sergeant and Mrs. Smith, you're going to love this house.
Is that a tub in the kitchen?
There's no field manual for finding the right home. But when you do, USAA Homeowners Insurance can help protect it the right way. Restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon. Amazon has curated selections of college essentials, from dorm room hacks to internet-famous finds. And with Amazon's unbeatable deals and everyday low prices, there's no need for a second student loan. Plus, with Amazon's fast and reliable delivery, it's all there when it needs to be. Make the most of college for less with Amazon. Shop now at amazon.com/off to college.
This episode is brought to you by Twizzlers. Long day, late night, feeling a little bored? Twizzlers is the ultimate sidekick for any moment of the day, no matter what kind of day you're having. The perfect level of sweet and a fun excuse to sit back and relax. Unwind with Twizzlers. To buy now, visit Hersheyland.com/Twizzlers.
Hey everyone, welcome to Keep Watch Pass on the It's Not That Bad podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Now, I need to put a disclaimer out before we even start talking about this episode. Your wonderful host, well, at least maybe wonderful, pseudo wonderful, wonderful-ish.
Well, I'll say wonderful.
Okay. I'm not a graphic artist. I am not a 3D artist. I need a ruler to draw a stick figure. That's basically my level of artistic talent. So please take with a grain of salt. When we say we are talking about movies with bad CGI, we come at it from a place of deep love of movies, regardless of how things look on the screen. And here to join me in this celebration of things that didn't render properly, Lyle Robichaud from AM 640 Toronto. How you doing, man?
Doing fantastic. I'm very excited for this one, and I agree with you. And I will say, I had a caveat before this episode as well. I love two of these movies. It was really hard to pick a keep because a couple of the movies I really do love have bad CGI, and some of this is a sign of the times. Some of this, they did the very best they could with what they had, and it was groundbreaking at the time, and they were trying something different. So I can't put the emphasis on it being terrible because they're bad at their jobs. Just like you said, sometimes there was extraneous circumstances that were being applied here, except for the past, but we'll get there.
Yeah, there are some times when a movie comes out and at the time it is absolutely groundbreaking. And then time passes and you realize that that ground broke a long time ago and compared to today, because we can do a ton of amazing things with CGI today. Now, personally, I tried to step away from things that were not computer generated. So something like stop motion animation, I took out of the equation because
I did as well.
Yeah, because if we were talking about stop motion animation, it would be like Clash of the Titans right up front, because that is
and that's it's a whole different style as well. It's a whole different process to create that kind of art. That is a painstaking process.
So anything Harryhausen-esque, if you will, I took out of the equation. It had to be clearly computer generated for my picks. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a keep, a watch, and a pass pick. The keep is one that, you know what, still holds up today-ish, at least in our hearts. The watch is one that, you know what, despite no matter how things render out, we'll still watch it. And the pass is the Commodore 64 of graphics, and so is the movie as well. So Lyle, you brought this to the table. Your keep pick for movies with quote-unquote bad CGI.
My pick for one of the best Christmas movies of all time, even though it's the most uncanny valley experience in the world and was when it came out, is The Polar Express. The story is fantastic. The voice cast is great. The music is great. The bell, everything about this movie is fantastic, except all of the characters in it are terrifying. That it was a very big leap. They tried to do a lot with this. I think it was one of the first movies of the time that was completely CGI. So it was trying to reinvent or create a new wheel, not just reinvent the wheel. Tom Hanks is fantastic in it. I do unironically absolutely love this movie, But when you watch it, some of the close-up facial shots are just scary. They don't look like kids. They look like the haunted mask from Goosebumps.
I will admit that I have not watched this film, but I'm very aware that the I guess PlayStation graphic-esque of some of the characters,
Perfect way to put it. It looks like a cutscene from a PS3 game.
However, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, when it came out, there was a character in this film with the faraway look, like basically the 1,000-yard stare of the characters in this. A Viking dwarf that makes fun of the Polar Express, as voiced by Seth Rogen. When this character came on, when that Viking came on, I'm like, oh God, they did. They went down that road.
And I have seen that movie, and honestly, that was in my rankings for something that might even be on this list, because there is some iffy looking characters in that, including one of the titular ones. But not bad enough to be my pass. And this Polar Express is too good. I love Polar Express very much. I watch it every Christmas. And even though it doesn't look that good, I still have to watch it every Christmas. So that counts for something, I think.
Oh yeah. There was so much right with Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Like, I'm sorry, but the fact that they threw in Tigra from the Avengers United They Stand cartoon series, the fact that they have
deep cuts.
Oh yeah.
A lot of deep cuts, which is Disney's thing right now, is going back and getting some nostalgia. But this is one of the few things that did it very well.
Yeah. Let's also not forget Ugly Sonic. But I mean, Polar Express tried something different. And whether you're creeped out by it or not, the story still does hold well, I think.
Very much so. And I think that's why this movie is in such high regard for me. It's a Christmas movie that doesn't follow your typical Christmas movie tropes. It goes completely fantasy with it, throws all the conventional, like some conventional Christmas stuff is there. Obviously, they're going to the North Pole to see Santa Claus. But there's a train conducted by Tom Hanks that picks up kids who are starting to not believe in Christmas to go and try to get them to believe again. And the power of that belief also powers the church. It's fantastic. To the train stopping on the ice, to the whole scene with the dummies that absolutely terrified me as a kid. It's got so many different beats that you don't expect from your typical Christmas movie. It's very adult toned at times too, and explores some really deep concepts of like believing in things.
I don't think this movie works if it's not Tom Hanks, though.
No, I've always said that they need to make a live action Polar Express, and the only thing they have to keep is Tom Hanks and the hot chocolate song.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use, but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
This episode is brought to you by Bai. It's Wonder Water. What makes Bai so great? It's simple. From Raspberry Lemon Lime by Sydney Sweeney to Zambia Bing Cherry and Palavo Pineapple Mango, Bai has antioxidants, electrolytes, and no artificial sweeteners. So for flavorful hydration, choose Bai. It's Wonder Water. Learn more about Bai and discover all of the exotic, bold flavors at drinkbai.com.
Okay, my keep pick is completely out of a love of the franchise. So don't at me when I say my keep pick is Star Wars The Phantom Menace. So let me explain. I can ignore Jar Jar. I really can. I really can.
You could have told me I should have had a beer for this episode.
Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that Ahmed Best has now shown up in episodes of The Mandalorian. Like the fact that he's there, like, holy crap, Ahmed Best reclaims glory. Thank God. Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yep.
Is pristine casting. And it has proven to be pristine casting. Because if you've seen the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, hells yeah. Hells yeah.
Great series. One of the better Star Wars series that Disney has made. I think that and Andor.
Yes. And I'm not saying anything against the scenes in space. Lucasfilm knows how to do stuff in space. They got that down pat. However, Naboo.
Yeah.
The fight between the Gungans.
I was about to say the Gungans, and in general, the Gungans.
Yes. And, the battle droids, which my kids used to call them the Rogers.
Because Roger.
Roger.
Actually, funny enough, I do like the prequels, and I like them better than I like the Stormtroopers because they're funny. They're funny little, like, trying their best, and they can't get in the good graces of anybody that they work for. I think it's hilarious.
But the things, I went to the theater recently to go watch it again on the 25th anniversary release. And you know what? I'm still that kid. As soon as the Star Wars, the fanfare comes on, I'm still that kid that got to go see the original trilogy in the theaters. And I'm still always, like, my heart just, like, doubles in tempo because that fanfare comes on. Because I'm about to see Star Wars on the big screen. I don't care what anyone else says. Last Jedi, okay, you know what? Rise of Skywalker, I can take it. Phantom Menace, you know what? Sign me up. If it's Star Wars, I'm in. I will not turn my back on the franchise that I have loved since the first time it came on. So the Phantom Menace, for any flaws that it has, is still my keep pick.
You know what? I also say that the worst Star Wars movie is still a 7 out of 10. Whatever one you pick as the worst is still a passing grade at worst. And that's hard to do with a series that has 9 mainline movies now and an extended universe in every sense of the word.
Oh, yeah. And the fact that one of those recent movies can be considered to be one of the greatest Star Wars films of all time, Rogue One, fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah. For my watch film, I'm going to a movie that we talked about on the very first Grading on a Curve special when we talked about superhero movies. Talking about Catwoman.
What?
Hear me out here. Hear me out.
Halle Berry's Catwoman.
Halle Berry's Catwoman. The CGI definitely does not hold up. But, and I will admit, I ranked this last on my list of superhero films that we were talking about in that episode. But the only reason why I ranked it last is because this is not really a Catwoman movie. It's not a Selena Kyle film. That's not Selena Kyle. It's not.
I don't know how to respond to any of this, but keep going.
But hear me out, though. Take the name Catwoman off of this. Have it to be some other brand new character that they created. And all of a sudden, you have this new world with this brand new superhero that's never been created before, but is kind of Catwoman-esque. Director Pitoff, and if I remember correctly, this is actually the only film he's directed, or at least this was the last film he directed. There's a lot of really cool camera angles in this. There's a lot of coolness that he brought to it. Halle Berry, for all this movie's faults, seemed to be having a ton of fun with this film. And the fact that she
did.
Yeah.
She did.
And the fact that she went to the Razzies to collect her Razzie, kudos to Halle Berry. But I think in retrospect, take out the fact that they're trying to make it Catwoman. Have it be like Jaguar Woman. I don't care what you want to call it. But I think there are a lot of good aspects to this film that take it out of the DC world, and it can stand up on its own, despite the fact that some of the CGI is definitely not.
I think I would put her performance as Catwoman right up there with Arnold's as Mr. Freeze. A lot of cat puns. You could tell she did have fun with it, and she has taken the criticism that she still gets for it to this day in stride. And it's Halle Berry, consummate professional, fantastic at what she does. But yeah, that's a surprise to me because as a Batman fan, I have seen that a couple of times, and it would not be my watch. I'll put it that way.
Okay, but I will ask you, if this was not a Catwoman film, but someone who got cat-like powers, call her Sphinx or whatever you want to call her, kind of thing. Take the word Catwoman off of this because they don't really call her Catwoman in the movie. And
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, so you change the name and you take it out of that world and you take like one passing reference. I think there was like a photo of Michelle Pfeiffer that ended up in there somehow. Take that out. Does it stand on its own as an individual brand new IP type story?
It might, but on that same track of thinking, what if Sean Connery said yes to Gandalf? You know, if ifs and buts were candies and nuts, every day would be Christmas.
I mean, we could sit there and pontificate, and we do when we do. It's not that bad. We
do.
can sit there and pontificate over who could be in.
I definitely see where your train of thought is, and yes, if it wasn't connected to Catwoman, because that's one of the biggest flaws with this movie is that it has nothing to do with anything DC related other than the name. There's no mention of Batman. They never even say Selena Kyle. She gets her cat powers through cat dander, I guess, whatever happened when she fell into the water.
Bad cat breath. Yep.
Bad cat breath. But yeah, I don't know. It would be an interesting universe to see if in these worlds of everybody going back to nostalgia, maybe we'll see Halle Berry in the cat suit again, and maybe she'll redeem herself a little bit with it.
The only person who can do that and make it right is Deadpool.
Yes, which, yeah, that's fair.
All right, so now what's your watch pick?
My watch pick is the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie.
Oh, right, Raggy?
Right, Raggy, right. I am an unapologetic. Scooby-Doo was my first obsession when I was a kid. A lot of kids had Barney. I had Scooby-Doo. I had a Scooby-Doo bedroom. I had a Scooby-Doo light switch cover. My walls were painted orange and teal like the Mystery Machine. I was huge into Scooby-Doo. I very vividly remember going to the theater to see, I can't remember what movie it was we went to see. It must have been something Disney. Or Madagascar, maybe? I can't remember. But when the trailer for this movie came up in front of a movie we went to see in the theaters, my dad actually had to take me out of the movie theater to calm me down because I was just like, when is this coming out? We have to figure out everything about this right now. Obviously, back then, I didn't realize that the CGI was rough. And rough is kind of putting it mildly, especially once you get to the monsters. Once you get to Spooky Island and the monsters start coming out of people's bodies and stuff. Scooby was passable, but still not great. Big eyes, some really, especially when he's in the dress on the plane, you can really start to kind of see the seams come loose. But a movie I unapologetically love. I'm not the only one either. Great cast, the Mystery Incorporated cast, if you ask anybody, especially Matthew Lillard, who still to this day plays Shaggy in almost any animated Scooby-Doo feature. You know he did a good job when. It's got Rowan Atkinson, surprise Rowan Atkinson in there. Everything about this movie I love.
I don't know if there is a cartoon that was transferred to a live action remake that ever nailed the casting so perfectly. Like,
I don't think so.
Sarah Michelle Gellar as Daphne. You mentioned Matthew Lillard as Shaggy. Freddie Prinze Jr. as Fred. Like, again, love the fact that he takes it in like completely in stride and knows exactly what the assignment is. Linda Cardellini, like, makes Velma so much more. Like,
she does.
Yeah, Velma is the most popular Scooby-Doo character I think today because Linda Cardellini killed it in the movies.
It's also an example of a live action movie. We're going to get into a deep dive on that. I friggin' love this movie and the sequel. We've done the sequel on your other podcast.
Yeah.
But what I love about this movie is it does take an ensemble cast from a cartoon of extremely one-dimensional characters. It's a Saturday morning cartoon from the 60s. You've got the stoner and Shaggy. You've got the kind of ditzy, but like, you know, the girlfriend of the leader in Daphne. You've got the trap-obsessed leader in Fred, and you've got the smart one with Velma and a talking dog. And they really take all of those characters and flesh them out as best they can. And they did a great job with it. I think this movie is really good, even though, much like the Polar Express, it didn't look good when it came out. It was kind of crapped on a little bit for the effects, especially when it comes to the Monster Army. But I think it's great. This is an easy watch for me. This and the sequel, for the same reasons. The sequel didn't necessarily have best CGI either. But take it as it comes. This is, if you like Scooby-Doo, you got to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we did the Monsters Unleashed, and no, the CGI did not hold up in that at all. But it's so easy to overlook because here's a franchise that knew its IP, put its tongue firmly in cheek, and had fun with it. Didn't make fun of it, had fun with it, which I think kind of makes it even more fun.
Agreed. 100% agreed. And didn't try to reinvent the wheel with it. Knew they were sitting on something that people loved from their childhood It's still going. The Scooby-Doo franchise is alive and very well. There are still direct-to-DVD movies coming out that are great. They're still working on, I'm pretty sure, on actual live action, more grounded and kind of grittier Riverdale-ish Scooby-Doo just got greenlit for Netflix. And let me tell you, when that comes out, I'll be on that, just like white on a wall as well. Like, it's just a concept that doesn't get old. It's a fun concept. It's kind of spooky, but it's not. It's all in good fun. It's the last of a dying breed.
I don't know if I want a Riverdale-esque Scooby-Doo, though.
I think if they do it right, I think it could be done very well. As long as you keep the campiness like these movies did. Don't go too far into it. But if you give me, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but there's the Mystery Incorporated show. The animated Scooby-Doo one called Mystery Incorporated. Have you seen that?
I have not seen that one yet.
Give yourself a watch of that. It is almost like a Batman the Animated Series version of Scooby-Doo, where they go much more like adult themes. There is like actual murder in it, but it's still a cartoon. It's still like a PG-13 kind of Scooby-Doo cartoon. And it is long form. It's told over seasons. There's a congruent story that goes from the beginning to the end of the 60 some odd episodes, I believe that there was. And it was done really well. If they can capture that in a bottle for a live action, I think it'd be great.
Yeah. See, I don't know if I want like a live action take like they did with Velma and kind of basically making fun of the series.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There's an animated series called Velma.
No, there's not.
We're ignoring it, aren't we?
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
So if that's not your pass, then what is your pass movie with bad CGI?
It's the Scorpion King.
I'm not surprised.
Real easy. As a wrestling fan, of course I saw this because The Rock's in it. So I had to see it. But The Rock's not in it. It's a massive Play-Doh that they tried to make look like The Rock anamorphed into a scorpion, but only got halfway through the Animorph book cover and then got stuck. And that's what this looks like. It is it's pretty rough. It's not the best movie either. It's a spin-off of The Mummy. It's good in places, and I do think The Rock is a decent actor, but this was not his best work. And when the entire crux of the film involves a really big CGI character that's supposed to be intimidating and have very complicated fight scenes, it doesn't work well when the CGI doesn't look good.
Yeah, no, like it's nice to see that they tried to make a movie with a PlayStation 1, but it's there are times that I can overlook something. You know, if especially if it's not a human. I think that's the thing here. This, you know, the Scorpion King still looked like The Rock, just a really bad CGI version of Rock. I can say this because it's not any of my picks, but you want to take a good example of this. You go back to the very first Harry Potter film. And while there's not a lot of CGI in that, when you get to the Quidditch match,
you know, that was almost my watch, and I had this exact thing typed down, the Quidditch match.
Yeah, because there are a lot of very PlayStation-esque cutscenes in that whole Quidditch match sequence that I can easily overlook because the rest of the movie is quite good. You can't overlook The Rock in this.
No, it is, and that's kind of, if you look at any criticism about this movie, that's the number one criticism, is that it's kind of spoiled by the big reveal of what this monster looks like. And it's especially that real close-up of his face when he first transforms. And there's a couple of frames where I don't know what got lost in translation, but it looks like The Rock had, you know, been broken down to a molecular level and tried to be rebuilt again, and it didn't necessarily work out.
I mean, we've been talking a lot about like superheroes and stuff like that. So I need to bring this up. This is kind of like, it's not necessarily CGI, but bear with me here. If you have Disney Plus, they have some of the old Fox era superhero cartoons, like the superhero, the Marvel block, if you will, from the 90s. The Iron Man animated series that is on Disney Plus, they would have this moment in the shows where like Tony Stark's gonna get the suit on and start to go save the day kind of thing. And he would start to put the suit on, and then they would bust into this really, really bad CGI montage of him putting the suit on, where it's so robotic, and then they go back to traditional animation. Like, why?
It's the opposite of the Sailor Moon suit up.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's horrible. The shows are good. The script is good. That was not necessary. And I get that CGI was cool at the time, got to get the computer animations here. That's what the kids want. No, give me Iron Man.
Yeah, 100%.
My pass kind of falls into the same category of superheroes, though, because I'm talking about a film from a fantastic director, but just not in this case. Ang Lee's Hulk.
Jason.
You knew this was coming.
I had an inkling that it might appear on yours. I wasn't going to put it on mine because I love that movie because I'm a superhero nerd, but it was within the realm. I had a working list of things that could show up.
See, The Incredible Hulk, the one with Ed Norton, is a fantastic film. I think it doesn't get the love that it deserves as far as the MCU goes. This film, however, and I have tried rewatching it over and over again. I've tried. And it's not necessarily that all the CGI is bad, because they tried something that had really never been done before, right? Really making a live action CGI Hulk. In some cases, good work, but in a lot more of the cases, Hulk bad.
Hulk bad.
Hulk bad.
The best thing to come out of this movie was the ride at Universal.
Yeah. But the other thing, too, is that Ang Lee, as a director, did not help his case with a lot of this, with some of the weird crossing of the axis in cuts, with extreme close-ups of Eric Bana and Jennifer Connelly while not emoting. There's a thing. When the camera moves closer to the subject, what they're saying should be really important and really impassioned and like draw the viewer in. And we're not getting that. It's like they passed out the Quaaludes and then moved the camera right in to make sure that you had proof of life. That's kind of what this is. And with the weird transitions going from scene to scene, like the editing of this film feels like a fever dream.
It does. And that's one of the biggest complaints that I have about it as well. There are times where it's one of those movies, if you look away for 30 seconds, you're not going to realize what's happening. It moves really quick. It's all over the place. And it's very, very hard to save the movie if your main character, the main draw, is this big, massive CGI, and it doesn't necessarily look the best.
Yeah, no, it's... There's not much saving grace in this one. Like, Jennifer Connelly is not good in this. Eric Bana is not good in this. Nick Nolte, straight out of the mugshot lineup, definitely not good in this
At all.
Like, it's hard to find any kind of saving grace in this.
It's probably, and this might be a stretch, but I would say it's in the bottom 3 for superhero movies since the boom started, for sure. Since, because it is in that pre-Iron Man time where superhero movies were very few and far between, and they were the Wild West. You could kind of do whatever because they were licensing them for no money. But in retrospect, especially now where we've had so many good Hulks, we had Edward Norton, and of course there's Ruffalo, who he's the Hulk. Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk to me. They've done great with the character. They've even spun him off. The next Captain America movie is going to have Red Hulk in it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really good that the character kind of got their resurgence because Hulk is one of the best Marvel characters, strongest one there is. But yeah, this was not a good outing. I would rather the Lou Ferrigno version.
That being said, and I need to point this out here because this scares me. Doesn't qualify for It's Not That Bad.
Because I think at the time it was so groundbreaking. I think at the time people were just like, wow, look what they were able to do. And then it took a minute for people to go, but they didn't really hit the mark with it.
Yeah. But hear me out on this one, okay? So when it comes to the tomatometer, I want to give you parallels here. This film, 2003's Ang Lee Hulk, has a 63% tomatometer. The Incredible Hulk only has a 67% tomatometer, and The Incredible Hulk is a far superior Hulk film. But when it comes to the audience score, The Incredible Hulk has a 69%, which I still think is low.
I do too. I think it's low. But that's at the time where we did have superhero movies ramping up. There was a higher bar.
Yeah.
I think at that point, maybe.
The Ang Lee Hulk sits at 29% for an audience score.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I think the audience knows. The audience
We always do.
knows. Yeah. Exactly. That's why we do the aggregate now.
That's why.
All right, Lyle. Please remind our listeners what your keep, watch, and pass picks are for movies with bad CGI.
My keep is Polar Express. It's a fantastic movie with a great heart. It holds up. Plenty of people watch this every Christmas. And to become an actual family tradition, the movie's got to be good, even if it looks scary at sometimes. My keep is Polar Express. My watch is Scooby-Doo. Both off sentimental value and the fact it's a great movie, even though one of the characters is a CGI talking dog, and the monsters all look very malnourished and not necessarily that scary. And my pass is The Scorpion King. You don't got to watch that movie. It is when The Rock was still figuring out that he needs to wear a short sleeve safari shirt and everything that he's in order for it to be decent. He hadn't figured that out yet. The ending kind of ruins it all in the CGI. That's the only one where I'll point to it and say the CGI was bad, and that kind of made the movie bad.
All right, and for me, my keep is Star Wars The Phantom Menace. My watch, much to Lyle's dismay, is Catwoman, and my pass is 2003's The Hulk. Lyle, thank you so much for this. Now, please remind our listeners where they can find you out there on the interwebs.
You can find me on AM Radio 640 Toronto. The Radio Player Canada app's the easiest way to find us. Me and Danny Stover are live from 7 to 10 every weeknight. We talk about the news and kind of make it a little more digestible and a little more lighthearted than some other places it may be. We're working on some podcast stuff soon, so check us out.
All right, dear listeners, you guys know the drill. If there's a topic that you want us to cover on Keep Watch Pass, or a movie, but not Hulk, that you want us to cover on It's Not That Bad, it doesn't qualify, can't talk about it, hit us up on social media at Not That Badcast, or go to our website at notthatbadcast.com. And while you're there, make sure you check out our Coming Soon page, because we're getting closer and closer to Mocktober, so you want to know which movies we're getting ready to talk about for that month. Until next time, he's Lyle, I'm Jay, you guys are awesome. This is Keep Watch Pass on the It's Not That Bad podcast channel, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network. Take care.